In this lesson, we're going to be looking at three other data types: the string, the Boolean, and the char. A string is 0 or more characters surrounded by double quotes. So for example, the phrase "hello world," when surrounded in double quotes, becomes a string. The string data type is a class, and what that means is that there's a large collection of methods or functions that we can use to manipulate strings. Things like reverse for reversing a string, length to return the number of characters in a string, and other types of functions that help us work with strings. We'll be seeing those quite a bit as we go through the course. The string length is limited primarily by your available memory. However, in a real working program, it's not practical to have a very long string, such as several hundred characters long. If you have strings that long, you probably need to store them as text files. When we talk about strings, we're really talking about things like names and addresses and data that's of a regular standard length. Strings can be combined with the plus sign or the plus operator in an operation called concatenation, so that two or more strings can be essentially glued together to form one string. For example, if we had a string hello and a second string world, and we put those together with the plus sign, hello plus world, we would get one string that was hello world. So concatenation is a very common operation performed with strings. Finally, the empty string, or two double quotes side by side without any spaces, is a legal string object and is used a lot of times to initialize a string variable. And we'll be talking about that later in the course. The Boolean data type is used to store true-false values. And in fact, the only values that a Boolean variable could have are true or false. Booleans are used in situations where we want to make a comparison. For example, salary greater than 100,000 will return either a true or false value depending on what's stored or what value is stored in salary. They're also used a lot in repetition, where we might have a loop while the balance is less than 10,000, then perform a set of statements over and over again. And again, the expression balance less than 10,000 will return either a true or false value depending on what piece of data is stored in balance. The char data type is any character in the keyboard surrounded by single quotes. So for example, we might have the lowercase a or uppercase A or a 1 surrounded in single quotes. Those are considered char data. Notice the difference between a char, which is a single quote, and a string, which uses double quotes. Char data are stored as ASCII values. If you're not familiar with ASCII, each character on the keyboard has an integer value that represents it internally. For example, the letter A has a value, the backspace key, the enter key, the space bar, all have integer values that are called the ASCII value for that character. And it's stored internally with an integer. If you're not familiar with ASCII, you might want to search for it on the internet, and you can see a table that describes what the different ASCII values are. That wraps up our discussion of string, Boolean, and char, and now we're ready to move to the next lesson, where we're going to discuss the rules for creating and using variables, which are used to store data.